Doug Glanville joining us. And so while we're all hoping for baseball to be back, we all think it will be. We also know there's a hell of a lot more important things going on in this world, Doug, with what happened to George Floyd when he was killed. And now all the protests that are going on, you're hearing athletes being involved in protests and putting out statements and such. What has been your overall view as you have gone through this the last few days?
I mean, it's overwhelming. It's transformational. It's scary. It's everything. My background, I touch on a lot of these challenges that we face in our country. A lot of them, obviously being Black man in America, obviously playing professional sports, but also my history through sports comes through police. The volunteer officer that was my coach in summer leagues was a detective in the Teaneck Police Force. And my introduction to law enforcement was through baseball. And I felt fortunate when I look back because I had a positive experience from the beginning, and I had access to law enforcement early on to humanize. And what we're missing often in that relationship is the humanization and seeing each other in the same light. And I fortunately had the privilege to be able to have that access. My father was a psychiatrist, and he worked often with police officers locally. And so I understood early on what the stresses were. And so that my life came through that lens. And then when a lot of my teammates that summer became officers and retired recently, I saw them as friends and family. Many people don't have that experience. And especially we talk about communities of color where there's tendency of a disproportionate police presence and all the, being criminalized and stop and frisk and all these things. And you create a very tense relationship. And it doesn't matter. Like, I played Major League Baseball. I was on a call on all these and Zoom with all these amazing former players. And we recognize that when the uniform comes off, even more so than it already is, it's scary. I've had a number of incidents I could list in the last 5 to 6 years that made me fearful of my life and fearful of certain consequences. And my reactions matter. So one of the questions I asked them was about being 0 degrees of separation from George Floyd. And I think it's a deep thing to think about, because although you have the privilege and wealth and you're a star and all these things, you see yourself in George Floyd as a Black man. You see yourself. You see the possibilities of things going wrong, even when you're doing something mundane, like I was one day when I was shoveling my own driveway. Yeah. So I think there's a reflection, and I think, and when we come down to it, we need to see each other in each other, no matter where we're backgrounds and where we're coming from. But we have to address the structure that has sort of been built around this original belief that one group of people is more superior, is superior to over another, and has certain rights over them. And that's how our country was built to a large degree. So sports play a great role in this, because as I fast forward in the story I was mentioning about the police, they came in droves to my father's funeral when he passed away because of his service to law enforcement. And we got a police escort to the burial site. They were there when I played Major League Baseball as my friends and teammates throughout my entire career, looking out for my father when he was sick, and my mom, who was a teacher in the school system. And I wish more people had that type of engagement back and forth to be exposed to people. So our country has a wake-up call in the middle of a pandemic, and it shows that we just have a lot of work to do. And sports at its best is that place where when I went to spring training and I was exposed to people I'd never met from all different backgrounds, we saw each other in each other. We saw the possibility because the team made you focus on the character and the work ethic and things that melt away a lot of our divisions, even if we go our separate ways when the season was over. If we get back to that at its core, that's a huge starting point, but we have to be involved and engaged. And sports can play a tremendous role in that, even though in itself it can't fix it. We have to do it together. And that's the only way it's going to work. Is I always remember this lesson when I responded to what happened to me in my driveway. I said, well, look, in the end, if we want law enforcement to change, we have to work with law enforcement. And it takes a certain understanding. And that's important. We have to all come to the table. So, hopefully baseball sees that opportunity to get back and also help our country heal and move forward in a positive direction.
Well, just absolute eloquence and nothing less that I would expect from you. Doug, as always,
Thanks, Doug.
We appreciate your time this morning. Be well, be safe. Thank you for your insights.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me on.